My name is Edgar Mannheimer, and this is Kalam, a podcast about the Middle East. Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Kalam podcast. I'm honored and delighted to have Ralph Baydoun back on the show. Last time we spoke was the 20th of September. Ralph, you're a political analyst and a researcher, and proud to call you my friend. Thank you for coming back on Kalam podcast.
Pleasure, Edgar. Thank you.
So last time, as I said, we spoke was the 20th of September. A lot has happened since then. But if we can focus on maybe one of the larger events since then, which was the political assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, maybe one of the most high-profile assassinations Israel has ever managed to pull off. What's the significance of that killing?
Well, I think it's the best outcome for Nasrallah himself to go this way. I think it's easier not to explain, to stand in front of the people and explain what happened, the inability to prevent this catastrophe from happening. But for context, for the people who didn't watch our latest episode, let's actually go back to the 17th of September and explain how things evolved from there. So on the 17th, we witnessed the pager attack, which was the biggest intelligence breach for Hezbollah and the Hezbollah community. This attack exposed Hezbollah operatives, exposed their locations, gave a lot of data about Hezbollah operations. And later on, we found out from international media outlets that this was in the making since 2015. So not only the pagers were contained explosive devices, but other devices like walkie-talkies, remote controls, and other things in the supply chain were hacked. And the Israelis had their eyes and ears over Dahi since, I don't know, maybe 2006. So 17th pager attack, walkie-talkie on the 18th. Nasrallah goes on live television on the 19th of September. It was the quickest response by the Secretary General to an event, just to reassure his community, to boost morale, to reassure them that the structure of Hezbollah remains intact, to reassure them that the architecture, the military architecture is still strong and we still have like a deterrence power. Mm-hmm. And he doubled down. He said that we are continuing this battle no matter the cost. The same night, later at night, Israel targets a meeting for the Radwan forces leaders, which are the elite unit in Hezbollah. And the most significant person in that meeting was Brahim Aqil, who was part of the Islamic Jihad, which is the original group that started Hezbollah, and he was one of the oldest leaders, leaving Nasrallah one of the few remaining leaders in Hezbollah in the first command positions. During this attack, of course, Israel downed a civilian building, killing 40 civilians as a result, but also eliminating all the elite forces leaders who were meeting in Dahi after like a handful of assassinations in Dahi already. During this time, it's important to know that the Iranian president was in the United Nations, and we saw media interviews where he was cozying up with the Americans, saying that we don't wish war with the Americans, we are brothers. So when the Lebanese foreign minister and the Lebanese prime minister were in the United Nations saying that we want a ceasefire, we want to actually implement 1701, in parallel, the Hezbollah leadership, Hezbollah media, and Nasrallah were actually doubling down on their initial position that got us to where we are right now. So you've got the Lebanese a very weak Lebanese diplomacy and very weak representation and influence. And you've got the real power in the hands of Hezbollah, and who were actually declaring the opposite statement. Or the opposite position. On the 23rd, Israel declares a new phase of the operation, or 22nd at night. On the 23rd in the morning, Israel issues large evacuation orders all over Lebanon, ask people to move away from Hezbollah positions, and they started a massive, massive bombardment campaign all over the south, which caused around 500,000 people to flee. Of course, they stayed up to 24 hours on the road. The Lebanese state did not plan any contingency plan. They didn't even organize the roads, like road traffic. Even they didn't organize road traffic and manage road traffic during this evacuation order. Also, at the same time, Israel broadcasted, hacked into the FM radio stations, broadcasted messages publicly online with the Lebanese anthem in the background.
Wow.
So massive psychological, massive psychological and information war.
Yeah.
Next to the actual bombardment that was happening in the south.
Yeah.
They also started calling Lebanese people, various Lebanese people, to tell them that they are next to Hezbollah positions. They need to evacuate, which caused additional panic.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, the state was absent. 2-3 days, the bombardment campaign continued on the south, and in parallel, the Lebanese people on the roads and in their homes were actually receiving false propaganda videos about victories that are happening, that are being done right now. Fake pictures of bombardments of Haifa, bombardments in Tel Aviv, to compensate for the shortcomings of Hezbollah as a deterrent force.
Yeah.
So this is why I started with the best outcome for Nasrallah was to go this way, because he wouldn't have to explain to his people why there's 1 million displaced right now. I said in a previous video that Nasrallah was the main father figure of the Shia community in Lebanon.
Yeah.
We've all been through the same situation. So the Christians lost their, leader, Bashir Jmayil. The Druze lost Kamal Jumlat. The Sunnis lost Rafi al-Hariri. And now the Shia are going through the same situation.
Okay.
So right now, the Shia community find themselves homeless, leaderless, and uncertain about their future. They're uncertain if they're going to be able to go back to their homes in the south. They're uncertain about being able to rebuild, because the only guarantee for rebuilding their homes was Hassan Nasrallah.
Yeah.
Right now, the Shia community in Lebanon find themselves in the hands of Iranian leadership, the Iranian leadership. Unfortunately, they are the bargaining cart in the hands of Iran. You've got Israel eliminated the first and second in command, who are all Lebanese.
Yeah.
So yes, the people on the battlefield are Lebanese. Yes. Those defending on the front lines are people from those towns and villages and cities. But as we've seen from the open source and from the interviews with the Hezbollah soldier who was kidnapped by Israel, we now know, and by the actually statements of some pro-Hezbollah journalists, we see that the Radwan forces, or the elite forces, those forces that are trained in Iran and that have like a strong connection to Iran, those have not entered the battlefield yet.
Yeah.
Who's fighting right now are the landowners in the south, who are actually cut from supplies, who are facing incredible odds. You've got 6 divisions right now, around 60,000 Israeli soldier on on the front line.
Mm.
In parallel, you've got the resistance fighters in those front lines that are left alone with no supplies. The winter is coming, so they have no means of sustaining themselves for long. The time factor is on the Israeli side.
Mm.
Remember that this whole chunk of Lebanon, this south beyond the Litani River, has been declared a military zone, which means it's being surveilled 24/7. So any Hezbollah soldier or resistance fighter that is exposing himself is being targeted or marked by Israeli drones
Yeah.
and exposing their location. So the odds are incredibly against them. And the Radwan forces, which is the Iran, directly affiliated unit, has not interfered yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which brings me to Iran's retaliation actually against Nasrallah. Iran's retaliation came on
Yeah.
October 1st.
Yeah.
I think October 1st. Iran has proved for the second time that they are capable of targeting Israeli targets,
Mm-hmm.
and they are able to precisely target them
Yeah.
and inflict damage, but they
Yeah.
have chosen not to. They have chosen not to, and this was maybe the biggest blunder of the Iranian strategy in the region. Had they used those ballistic missiles before or immediately after Shukur's death,
Yeah.
which was the first deadly attack on Dahi on Beirut, or after Hani's death in Iran, maybe Israel's calculus would have been different about Nasrallah.
Yeah.
So basically, the Iranian retaliation was a warning. It was not a shoot to kill. It was, a warning to the Israeli structure that we are able to, in case you escalate more. But that's the blunder of the Iranian strategy. Iran is fearing retribution on Iranian soil. However, by not retaliating earlier, it is letting Israel go after its allies one by one separately. And at the end, the Israelis will go after Iran. And right now, what we're seeing right now, what's happening right now, is Israel is laying the groundwork for a huge attack on Iran. Actually, you've got multiple scenarios. So the first scenario is Israel will not retaliate in the way we think. Will not attack the head of the IRGC, will not attack the Khamenei, will not attack the oil structure or the nuclear facilities.
Okay.
They will do a symbolic attack. This is the first scenario. And the second scenario, no, Israel will actually go ahead and do what Netanyahu has been saying for the past, I don't know, like 2-3 months, that we are changing the map. We are changing the face of the East. With the current climate in the US, we're only like 14 days away from the American elections, only 2 weeks. When he says that, it means, and when the American, gives him the THAAD air defense system.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said the name correctly, but the Americans recently provided a new advanced air defense system for Israel to be capable of defending itself from Iranian ballistic missiles. I fear that Netanyahu will bomb the Iranian oil facilities, which are concentrated in an island that is called the Kharg Island. This island is connected, most of the Iranian oil is connected via pipes and will go through this island. And from this island, it's exported in the world, to the world. And this is the sole income for Iran right now. Yeah. So if this is gone, then Iran won't be able to support Hezbollah. Iran won't be able to sustain itself. and then Iran will be faced with, first of all, you're taking around 2 million barrels
Yeah.
of the grid. So this alone maybe would not be detrimental for global supply. But if Iran finds itself in this position, they would go all crazy,
Yeah.
and they would probably attack all oil supply or all oil tankers in the Persian Gulf
Yeah.
and through Yemen also in the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So, and this would actually take around 10 to 12 to 14 million barrels of oil of the global supply, which means a global economic disaster, a global depression. And the country that will benefit the most is the US because it is self-sufficient energy and food wise. And the biggest loser of that disruption would be China, um, because it imports most of its oil.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we're looking to this scenario as a possibility in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, like going from Nasrallah's death to these like enormous global scenarios that really like, I mean, are extremely worrisome. I think is significant and something that should be talked about more. But do you think that because the implications are so huge that this is the reason why Israel has not retaliated yet? That the US is trying to, you know, like calm them down somehow?
Edgar, I think the American administration has no say right now. I think Netanyahu is the kingmaker in the American elections. If Netanyahu does this strike before the American elections, it will cause, as we said, it will cause a disruption in the whole world, and it will be felt on the global stage, and there would be a global depression, which would actually contribute to the elections of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And if he does that after the elections, it means, you know what, he has the green light from the whoever is going to be sitting at the White House.
Yeah.
And the Americans tried to tone the Netanyahu's response, putting additional sanctions on the oil sector of Iran, by the way, last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So that was the American attempt to actually tone it or hold Netanyahu from doing the strike before the elections. What's happening right now on the map, what's happening right now is going to change the map of the Middle East. We've seen Israel actually going 1 kilometers deep from the Quneitra side. The Quneitra is on the Syrian, next to the Syrian Jordanian borders. We've seen it going 1 kilometer deep and 70 kilometers across the borders, connecting Al Quneitra to the Golan Heights. And they're also digging 5 to 7 meter trenches along this road, which means they are there to stay. They now connected the Suwaida province, the anti-Assad Druze in Al Suwaida province. They've connected them now to the Golan Druze, and then the next stage would be actually to take to invade from the Golan Heights, to go through the Bekaa Valley and go to the Barouk. Then you have a land bridge between all these Druze groups and communities. So we started seeing the idea of religious contours happening somehow. Erdogan in October and the beginning of this month, he said that we are under threat. Israel might be thinking of taking Anatolia, which is completely, it's ungrounded in facts. It's a fantasy. But what did he mean by that? He meant that we're seeing that Netanyahu has the green light to divide the region and to do what he wishes. So if he's taking a chunk of Syria, we need to take a chunk of Syria too. You already have Turkish presence in the north. You already have the Kurdish separatist part, and Erdogan might see this opportunity to actually have a new chapter with the Kurdish parties there, and if he is able to make a deal with the Kurdish factions, then he is able to give them autonomy, but on the expense of the Syrian territory, and taking this whole north and joining it with Turkey, the north of Syria. I'm talking namely Hama or Aleppo, for instance.
Mhm.
So who can stop him from doing that? The Russians? No, of course not. They are not capable. And I think, yeah, if you see those moves from Turkey and from Israel, you understand that the region is heading into that into redrawing the map, removing Iran completely from the borders
Yeah,
of Israel. So you've got
yeah,
you've degraded Hamas capabilities in Gaza. You're cutting now the supply line from the West Bank by cutting the Syrian-Jordanian border
mm,
from Al Qunaitra. Now you've literally cut Iran's arms in the region.
yeah. What strikes me as slightly short-sighted about this plan is that Iran is not the only anti-Israeli force in the region. Don't you think that other groups will simply take their place?
Resistance needs supplies. They need finances. They don't simply emerge without a huge governmental or state backing. So until uh, I don't see anyone filling this gap right now. I think there's more interest in stability in the region
Yeah.
more than disruption. I think the only disruptor right now is Iran,
Okay.
and a new global and a new world order and the age of deglobalization.
Yeah.
Disruption doesn't help China, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Disruption doesn't help Saudi Arabia,
Mhm.
doesn't help the Emirates, doesn't help Israel. Maybe it will benefit the US. Disruption would benefit the US on the long
Yeah.
run because they are self-sufficient and they don't.
Yeah.
But again, global growth affects US
Of
growth
course.
as
Yeah.
well. So if nobody else can afford American products, then
Yeah.
they will suffer from the same stagnation. So
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to get you to sort of talk about or explain a little bit this like social media phenomenon that we like your and my chat has become a kind of like archive for because you're sending me this stuff basically of kind of like larger social media accounts in maybe southern Lebanon or like from the Shia community or from the Hezbollah community actually peddling the lie that Hassan Nasrallah is alive, that he's not dead. Uh, could you explain what this is?
I honestly, I don't want to waste anybody's time talking about this, but in summary, this is it's a phenomena that happened with all the groups in Lebanon that lost their leaders. But the difference right now with the Hezbollah community is that it's an it's a party with an ideology. It is based on ideology, not on facts and reality.
Yeah.
And this is an indicator of the diminishing of logic and the clinging to illusions and ideology more
Mm.
and more. Um, so this inability of reading reality
Yeah.
has got us to where we are today. We had people in Lebanon that seriously thought they could or they're gonna invade Israel and take over Haifa and Tel Aviv and Tel Aviv or restore the Palestinian land,
Yeah.
which is a very nice goal to achieve, but it remains very, very, very far from the reality and very far from the capabilities that we have in this country. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What about the social contract, let's say, if we call it that, between Hezbollah and its constituency? How damaged has that social contract become now?
So Israel has been working on shaking the trust between Hezbollah and his community by first uh, bombing Dahi, which caused massive exodus out of Dahi,
Yeah.
which positioned Hezbollah as a weak player. They always thought that it's a very strong player in the Middle East. It's a geopolitical power and is able to protect them and deter Israeli aggression on Beirut. So this was broken in when they started attacking Dahi. Israel also worked on recruiting Hezbollah members.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after establishing this rapport with the Shia community, well, like if you ask anybody in Dahi, who do you watch, who do you follow on Twitter, they would tell you Afikhai Adrai, the Arabic spokesperson of the Israeli army.
Yeah.
He's the most watched man, and I assure you, he's the most watched man right now in the Shia community. Nasrallah was the main figure. Right now, it's Afikhai Azrai. They're watching him to know where to evacuate and how or when to evacuate. So after establishing this rapport, what the Israelis are trying to do in the psyche is that you have to trust us right now. We tell you to evacuate. So this is what they're trying to establish.
Okay.
And then they're trying to recruit from the Hezbollah community. We've seen sponsored ads on Facebook and Instagram with the page is called Your Human Resources page, asking Hezbollah people to provide information in return to the safety of their families. We've got Mossad ads on Instagram and Facebook asking them also to provide information. So yes, the trust is shaken. However, it's being controlled and contained by Hezbollah right now on a media level and on mainly on the media level, because Hezbollah is present in each, like a coordinator, let's call it a community coordinator, is present in each public school where the displaced are residing. With, like, we're talking about only 10% of those displaced or 15% are present in those public schools. However, the large majority is now has rented places all over the country, all over Lebanon. So you've got the coordinators controlling the narratives from within those public schools. You only see interviews with either elderly people or with children. You don't see anyone giving interview or telling you their opinions right now. So it's still controlled. You've got a group of those displaced around 10,000 people have fled to Iraq. You've got around 100,000 Lebanese have fled to Syria. So the narrative is still controlled somehow, but we see indicators of that split. That an indicator is the Amal party supporters who have started to become more vocal against Hezbollah and against the decision of involving Lebanon in this war. On Facebook and Instagram. So the displaced right now, we're still this new phase of the war is only 1 month old. So they still have some savings. They are still able to pay rent.
Yeah.
But soon they will exhaust those savings and they will stop paying the rent. And they will be forced to leave, or they will be forced to stay against the wishes of the landowners, which will cause problems. Already Israel is working on that, sowing division. We're seeing the strategy being implemented on a military level by targeting Hezbollah operatives only, by selecting only like Hezbollah operatives to kill, and civilians that are within the Hezbollah community or from the Hezbollah community.
Yeah.
And they started to target Hezbollah operatives and civilians within the host community who are at odds with politically. So they're trying to create those tensions between the Lebanese communities. And it's also evident by their information war. For instance, you've got anonymous accounts masking, a Lebanese Christian or masking a Lebanese Shia that are fighting online to steer civil strife. You also have a lot of disinformation and incitement going on unregulated WhatsApp news groups, unregulated news outlets online and Instagram and on Facebook. So this is a recipe for not only shaking the trust within the Shia community itself, but also sowing division within the Lebanese communities.
So how's that going? Like, are you seriously afraid of divisions within like between different Lebanese communities, between religious groups, ethnic groups, actually like going overboard and leading to serious violence?
I hope it won't get to that. But let's look at the situation. Right now, you've got 2 million people in Lebanon unemployed. You've got 1 million people displaced. Although you need two parties to start a civil war, right now we have one party that is armed. The other parties are significantly weaker in terms of military, or they don't have any military power. So it takes two to tango. So the factors for a civil war are not there. You need funding for the civil war. You need arms, like large arms import, and I don't see it happening right now. And I bet on the Lebanese army to control the situation. And I think sooner or later, the head of the parliament will declare a state of emergency, which will lead to the army taking control, regulating social media, regulating the security on the ground, because what's happening right now will definitely lead to some problems. So let's suppose Israel would target soon a civilian building in a Christian neighborhood.
Yeah.
Who didn't win this war, who are hosting Hezbollah community, or like the Shia community, not the Hezbollah community, who are hosting the Shia community, despite their opposition politically. It will cause them to actually kick them out. And this will cause ripple effects all over the country, which will push the Lebanese army to take control. I hope.
Yeah. So, okay, we established all of these things, and we established that Israel is trying to sow division between these groups. It strikes me, and maybe we can like wrap up with this question. It strikes me as kind of a bold and daring and kind of reckless move from Israel, because sowing division, like we just said, risks creating a civil war-like situation in Lebanon, which I can't imagine would be good for Israel in any way. Having an unstable, I mean, Lebanon is still, even if Israel annexes parts of southern Lebanon, that's still Lebanon on your border. And an unstable Lebanon, an unstable Syria can't be good for Israel. So if you can imagine, like, from Israel's perspective, what's the end game? What are they trying to achieve?
Yeah, I don't think instability in the region is their aim. I think it's the opposite. It's bringing back stability from their point of view. So again, the elements of a civil war are still not there. Right now, the supply lines that used to supply Lebanon with weapons are now closed. The Americans are handling the Bukamal crossing in Syria, between Syria and Iraq. This border, if you look at the map, you just see one highway. And this highway is constantly being watched by satellites, by drones, and by all the technologies. You've got I think one supply line from Iran to Lebanon. It's through that road. So if that's being controlled by the Americans, and the desert topography is not made for large trucks to travel through the desert, or even small pickup trucks. Do you know how easy it is for a drone or a satellite to spot a car in a gray or a brown zone? So if that supply line is closed, if the supply line on the Syrian Lebanese borders is closed as well, if the sea, if you have a sea embargo, so the supply lines from the sea, it's also closed. You don't have weapon supply for the other communities in Lebanon to fight. You only have one fighting party, and now it's actually busy defending its positions and defending the country. So so I don't see that. The end goal for Israel is dividing the region. This reading is based on the readings of other geopolitical players like Erdogan, the Americans, the Saudis, the Iranians fear this. And it's based on the political readings of even the most, the allies of Hezbollah, who used to be the allies of Hezbollah, now are saying, you know what, we're detaching from Hezbollah right now. This is the end goal of Israel. It's removing Iranian influence from its borders and probably going after Iran either before or after the American elections. And we need to brace ourselves for a big global crisis.
Well, on that cheerful note, Ralph Baydoun, political analyst and researcher, thank you so much for speaking to us today on Kalam podcast, and take care of yourself in Beirut.
Thank you.